Welcome to the Midwest.motogirl podcast, where we'll dive into all aspects of building a badass life around motorcycles, mindset, and overall female betterment. Get ready to explore how your mindset can make or break your experience and enjoyment in the male-dominated world of motorcycles. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Midwest.motogirl podcast. I'm your host, Sydney Gard. So as I am recording this episode, today was the Boston Marathon, and yesterday was Easter. And you'll understand where the Boston Marathon comes in here in just a second. Like most people, I went to church on Easter morning yesterday. I went to a different church that I've never been to. It's just one that I drive past all the time, and I think it's like non-denominational or something, but said, what the heck, I will go to this church, give it a shot. And so I'm in church, and the pastor comes up front to give his sermon after the choir has sung a bunch of songs and played a whole bunch of really cool musical instruments. Basically, they just had like a giant band up at the front of like the church playing like trumpets and saxophones and drums and guitars and pianos and like this whole array of musical instruments and people like singing at the start of the church service. And it was actually kind of cool because I've never been to a church that has like this big like musical encore. But anyway, so the pastor starts off his sermon talking about when he ran the Boston Marathon like 20 years ago. And while I was driving to church, I had been thinking about the Boston Marathon because I knew that it was coming up. I knew that it was today. And I'm immediately intrigued because I'm a runner. I enjoy running. I've dreamed of running the Boston Marathon. And so I'm at church and this pastor starts talking about the Boston Marathon right off the bat. And I'm like, oh, okay, now you have my attention. But the whole point of his church service was about running on empty. And so he kind of used his experience with the Boston Marathon as a segue into his message, where he's telling us about how at the end of the Boston Marathon, he was running on empty, he collapsed. Then he relates like running on empty to how most of us go through life, where you go through life feeling basically like empty, whether you're out of energy, you're out of purpose, you aren't motivated because you've got all these like life stressors going on. You've got kids, you have work, you have 100,000 chores that you have to do. You've got bills and responsibilities and just like all of these things going on in life that add up. And if your day is just wake up, take care of kids, go to work, deal with stressors at work, come home, take care of kids, cook, clean, go to bed, repeat, like over and over and over again, it's pretty clear that you could run out of steam really quickly and that you could feel like you're empty. So he's talking about empty, and he relates that to like the empty tomb with the Easter story. And so he kind of gets into the Easter story, relating like actions and emotions in the story to everyday life. And pretty soon he starts specifically talking about courage, where it took courage for the disciples to go and check on this tomb after they thought that it was empty. And so as he's talking about courage, he gets more into courage over fear. And instead of doubting yourself or asking the what if questions or the hypothetical situations that could occur, because he was saying that you need to lean in on courage to overcome your fears in life. And so with that message, I immediately started thinking about motorcycle racing. And then I started thinking about this podcast, even motorcycle just riding just in general. And if you've asked yourself, what if every time you got on your motorcycle, you would probably never go? Because there's always that, well, what if I get hit by a car? Well, like that what if scenario in and of itself is enough to make a lot of people not want to ride a motorcycle anymore because it could be dangerous. If you're asking yourself, what if all the time, you would talk yourself out of it. You would probably never ride your motorcycle. You would probably never ride your motorcycle alone. Maybe you would never go out on the highway. Heck, maybe you would never even start riding a motorcycle or like learn if you were asking yourself those what if situations. And when I go out at the start of a motorcycle race, I'm fearful of crashing. Like I'll just be completely honest. I don't want to crash. And so instead of thinking about crashing, I start thinking and telling myself like, you can do this, you can do this. And most of the time, before a race and at the start of a race, like During the warm-up lap specifically, and we're sitting at the starting line, I'm anxious. But I lean on courage and I go out there anyways because I know that I will be disappointed with myself if I don't try. I would be disappointed in myself from just sitting on the sidelines and not trying and not giving in my all because I'm scared of what could happen. And even if I finish last in a race, going out there and showing myself that I'm brave enough to overcome my fears, like it fills me up. And I'm sure that there are lots of things in your life that if you just go and do it, even though you're scared of it, it like fills you up. Think about the first time that you got onto a motorcycle. Think about how that made you feel. Maybe you felt so empowered just by sitting on this motorcycle. You'd never even ridden it before that you were like, gosh, I know I have to try this. And then the first time you ride, you probably went to a parking lot just to like practice skills, or maybe you went to a motorcycle safety course to start out and you had never actually ridden before, like you were learning in the motorcycle safety course. And you were probably really scared. I remember when I was 18, I wanted to ride a motorcycle. I had grown up around motorcycles. And I said, I'm going to go and take the motorcycle safety course. And my dad really wanted me to take the safety course. He was like, I can teach you, but you need to take that course. And I decided on my own, no, I would rather take the safety course first and learn there. And then you can help me and ride with me after the fact. And so I went to that motorcycle safety course having no idea how to use a clutch. I had ridden a scooter before, a motor scooter before. So I kind of had the basics of like balance, but yeah, I had never used a clutch before. I had never had to shift before. And I walked in and first off, I was surprised because I was not the only female there. But I was the only one there that had never ridden a motorcycle before. The other women in the class, they all owned their own motorcycles, or they had been riding their boyfriend's motorcycle, and kind of like had been learning before they went. And it was scary. And I kind of sat there thinking to myself, like, gosh, do I really belong here? Maybe I should leave and come and take this course after I actually know what I'm doing. But I didn't. I stayed. And we did the classroom sessions for a couple hours. And then we went out into this parking lot and they said, okay, pick your motorcycle. And they were all the same, so it didn't really matter what bike you picked. But I got on that bike and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared. But now I think about, like, I'm racing a motorcycle. I'm road racing. And if I had given in to my fear at that motorcycle safety course, I would never have felt the confidence that I feel now when I go out there on the racetrack. And like, it just fills me up. Every time I get on my motorcycle, it just fills me up. And so last race season, I was at a track day, which is like a practice. My local track day organization, they do an amateur racing series at the end of their track days. So if you're signed up for the track day, you can sign up for the race at the end of the day. You pay like an extra $10, and they do a whole point series throughout the season. So if you go to all the track days and you sign up for all of the amateur race series, or if you sign up for every race, through the whole season, you accumulate points throughout the season. And at the end, they'll do awards to the top 3 points leaders. Well, anyway, so I had signed up for this track day race. There's not a whole lot of spectators at track days throughout the day, but sometimes you get like family members and friends that will kind of show up at the end of the day just specifically to watch that little amateur race. And there's a lot of people in like the town that will show up at the end of the day just for the race. And so I had a terrible start to the race. I got scared going into turn 1, and so I braked way early, and everybody basically just drove away from me going into turn 1. And I'm on a 320cc bike, and it's stock, and I was in a lightweight class. So the lightweight class allows motorcycles up to 450cc. And the other 300s that were in my class, they all had like built motors. So I was the slowest bike, and now everybody has just ridden away from me. And there's no way that I'm going to catch up because they're faster than me on lap time and they're on faster bikes than me. So like whole thing, kind of a couple of things going on there. Well, anyways, so the whole race, I'm in last place. By the end of the race, I'm getting lapped. And I'm just riding around out by myself. And I remember getting off the racetrack and kind of just like feeling defeated, where I was like, gosh, like I thought this was the time that I wasn't going to finish last. Like I thought this was the time that I was going to be able to keep up with the pack and not get lapped. And so I took off my race suit and I got on my pit bike and I rode down to the grandstand at the end of the straightaway. And I'm just parked there watching the Superbike race. So at the track day race, they do 2 races. The first one is a lightweight race, which I ride in. And then they do a Superbike race, which is like 500cc and bigger, up to 1000cc bikes. And so I go down there to watch the Superbike race, catch the last few laps of it after I get my suit off. And there's this woman, probably like in her 40s, in the stands, and kind of like right next to where I parked my pit bike and was just standing there watching. And she comes up to me and she said, "Were you the girl that was just out in that last race?" And I said, "Well, yeah." And I'm thinking that she's about to be like, "You should go faster," or like, I don't know what I thought that she was going to say, but I didn't think that it was going to be anything encouraging. And she had 2 daughters that were sitting there with her, and they were probably about middle school age. And she goes, "I just want you to know that my daughters were watching you and they were cheering for you, and they thought it was so cool to see you out there racing and to see a girl out there. And now they think that they want to race motorcycles when they get older." And like that filled my cup. It kind of like completely shifted my mood, where in that moment I realized like it does not matter that I got last place. I inspired 2 other young girls, and like that was enough. Like that's the whole thing that kind of got me wanting to race. I remember being a little kid going to Moto America races and watching like other girls that were racing and thinking like, that's so cool. I want to race motorcycles when I get older. And so like that was enough basically to fill my cup. So like as the church service continued yesterday, the pastor was talking about overcoming your fears with courage and filling up that feeling of emptiness of your life, or like overcoming that feeling of emptiness. And so then he showed this Bible verse that talks about filling your soul and like feeding your soul. And when you feed your soul, there's not room to feel empty in your life. And so again, he reads this Bible verse about feeding your soul and developing your soul. And immediately I start thinking about motorcycles again. And immediately it's clicking in my brain about how motorcycles are the one thing in this world that really feeds my soul. And when I ride them, when I work on them, when I race them, even just being at the racetrack with friends, it feeds my soul. And every part of motorcycles and the community that comes with it, it feeds my soul and it brings me happiness and joy, which overshadows any feeling of emptiness or loneliness that I ever could experience in life. It doesn't matter how stressful my job is that week. If I know at the end of the work week that I'm going to get to go to the racetrack and I'm going to get to ride my motorcycle, or maybe it's a full-on race weekend. It's not just a practice. That feeds my soul, and so it gets me through the hard times. And so when I think about motorcycles and riding motorcycles in general, I don't think about motorcycles just as a hobby. I think of motorcycles as being a part of my soul. And without motorcycles, I would not be where I'm at in my life today. I would 100% not have this podcast. There's a good chance that I would not even be in the profession that I'm in, because by profession, I'm an engineer. I grew up around motorcycles. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a motorcycle mechanic. My dad wanted me to get a 4-year degree from a university, and he wanted me to go into like math or science. And me wanting to work on motorcycles led me to saying, well, I'm going to design motorcycles, which led me into engineering. And I don't design motorcycles now. I'm not a design engineer. I don't work in the motorcycle industry, but it led me to this path of engineering. So it got me into the career and the profession that I'm in. And when I think about like all the things in my life that have kind of shaped who I am, motorcycles are all intertwined in that somehow and in some way. And to me, that's just really amazing. It's just something really amazing to experience and have this thing in your life that can really just feed your soul and fuel your life like this. And when I think about like how that applies to other people, I'm like, gosh, like if I could just share that with other people and like help other people experience the same fuel and fire that I get from motorcycles, like, and more people start experiencing that, more people would maybe have a sense of purpose, or they would find something in their life that they just feel like where they just really belong. And it just feels powerful. It feels powerful. And at the end of the day, that's kind of what all clicked in my brain, where I was like, gosh, I should really have a podcast about motorcycles. And so here I am kind of like ranting and talking about wanting to share this like fuel and this passion about motorcycles with other people. But I guess like the purpose is there is if you've ever sat on a motorcycle where you just felt connected, you felt empowered, where you're like, gosh, like I have to do this. I have to try this. Like I want to do this. Then you've started to feel like that fuel. And the more you ride, the more you experience that freedom and the empowerment and the confidence that comes with it, the more you're going to feed your soul. Every time you're able to go out and ride your motorcycle, you're going to feel that more and more and more and more. And if you could just carve out, say, 20 minutes a day, or maybe not 20 minutes a day, maybe 20 minutes every other day, or an hour on the weekends to ride your motorcycle, or to practice a skill in the yard, like that will feed your soul. And for me, like when I'm working on motorcycles in the garage, I'm learning about what I'm riding and I'm challenging myself about in my mechanical abilities. And that in and of itself, it feeds my soul because as a person, I like to learn. My personality type is, to be honest, I have no idea what my personality type is, but I know that I like to learn. And I get bored easily if I'm not learning and being challenged and engaged. And so like just being out in the garage and seeing how things work and tinkering with it and having the opportunity to try and fix something and maybe fail and learn from that failure, like that's absolutely awesome. And having motorcycles that I can do that with, it's just a really cool experience and a really cool feeling. If you got nothing else out of this podcast episode, I hope that you can take away that if you haven't experienced it, just keep trying. Like motorcycles, they can be a real way to just like feed your soul and develop your soul and make you feel strong and empowered and independent and just feel all of these like great, wonderful emotions that I just wish everybody could experience in their life every single day. Like honestly, I can't even describe the feelings that I get, especially like when I'm racing. And like I said, I'm really scared before I go out there for a race. I'm really anxious. But when you lean into courage to overcome those fears and go do it anyway, the feelings afterwards, they're so worth it. They are just so worth it, and you will not regret it. So, thanks for joining me today. I hope that you've really experienced that feeling and that joy and that empowerment that motorcycles bring, where they're just really going to feed and fuel your soul and kind of like light a fire inside of you. If you like this episode or any of the other episodes, please feel free to share this podcast with your friends. Please feel free to follow the podcast so you get updates about when latest episodes hit. And we will talk to you next time. Thanks, guys.